Okay, as we've been talking about ecosystems, we know that there are some living and non-living things that exist in each. So we're going to focus today on what those are and the scientific terms for them. The biotic factors in an ecosystem are anything that is alive, or is or was a part of something that was a living thing. So this can include animals, plants, bacteria, bugs, and all of the parts of those items. On the other hand, abiotic factors are factors that are not alive, never were alive, and were never a part of a living thing. So if you take a look at this slide, you'll notice that some examples of biotic factors would be animals, plants, bacteria, a dam that was built by a beaver, fungus, bugs, even things like a wooden bridge because it's made out of trees, leather boots because they were made out of animal hide, and a wool sweater that would have been made out of a sheep's wool. The abiotic factors, on the other hand, would be oxygen, river, the sun, wind, temperatures, rain, mountains, sand, a bridge that was made out of metal, a nylon shirt, or a glass container. Obviously, the last three items on each of these lists are not naturally occurring, and so we won't spend a lot of time focusing on those. In every ecosystem, there are a lot of interactions with these biotic and abiotic features. For instance, some biotic interactions would be when animals eat other plants or other animals to survive, when a beaver will cut down a tree and use logs as a shelter, when worms and bacteria decompose dead animals for food. We know that mosquitoes will live off of the blood of other animals, and trees will provide homes for birds. Some abiotic interactions include the idea that animals will breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. Plants need that sunlight and warm temperature to grow. Fish will live in the water in ponds. We know that rain falls in the forest, which provides moisture for the trees to grow, as well as helps to fill the rivers, lakes, and streams in an area. Bears, we know, will live in rocky cave areas as well. Some people get confused with biotic factors because they believe that the item has to be alive or currently living in order to be considered biotic. But that isn't the case. Anything that is alive or dead or was a part of a living thing is also considered biotic. So items such as a tree, the bark of that tree, leaves, whether they are attached or now on the ground, apples, twigs, even pieces of paper could be biotic. In a similar idea, the deer and its antlers, its hooves, its fur, etc., those are all biotic factors. And everything that's a biotic factor depends on the ecosystem for things like its food, water, air, shelter. So for example, a beaver, which is a biotic feature, would cut down trees, which are also biotic, in order to build a dam, which technically is still biotic because it's created out of those trees for its shelter. And then the dam will change the flow of the water in a stream, and that water in the stream is an abiotic factor. Also, bears, which are biotic, will eat fish and berries, which are biotic, but they will live in caves, and since caves are made out of rocks, those are abiotic features. Abiotic factors are any type of factor that you can see or feel, and also things that are composed of chemicals, like elements and molecules. So for the physical abiotic factors, those would be things like the temperature, water, sunlight, rain, clouds, etc. And every particular animal has its own abiotic factor that it needs in order to survive. So for instance, a shark can't live in the Arctic waters because they're not built with enough blubber in order to stay warm and survive. And a cactus couldn't live in the rainforest because it would receive too much rain and it would burst. The chemical abiotic factors would be anything that's made up of elements and molecules like oxygen and carbon dioxide and the nitrogen that circles within our environment. Also items such as rocks, minerals, and salt. The amount of sunlight and the temperature of air determines the type of plants that can grow in an ecosystem. It also requires animals to have certain adaptations so that they can survive. Ecosystems that have a lot of water can support many types of plants, and any ecosystem that has a lot of different types of plants can also have a lot of animals because there are a lot of food options for those animals to eat. So let's take a look at this picture. In this little made-up ecosystem, you've got all of the biotic factors listed in purple, and abiotic features are in red and underlined. So the biotic features that you can see here pretty easily would be the trees, bugs, plants, microorganisms, the animal here like this ram and its antlers. The abiotic features include the air that's in the atmosphere, the temperature of the ecosystem, the light that you see, water that's in this stream or puddle, and then the rocks and soil. Take a moment to pause this video and think about what biotic and abiotic features you see. When you're ready, with a list in your mind, you can press play again, and I'll tell you some of the ones that I notice. Hopefully in looking at this, you saw those trees, the grasses, the plants, the animals, its antlers. All of those are the biotic features. And the items like the sunlight, the clouds, the rocks, the air that would be there, those would all be abiotic features. What do you notice in this picture?